Arts organizations and institutions in the Fenway are once again opening their doors with free events on the Columbus Day holiday. Participants range from the First Church of Christ Scientists to museums, colleges, and community organizations, including Sociedad Latina. The efforts being led by a consortium to promote the Fenway Cultural District as well as access for surrounding neighborhoods. To tell us about this year's lineup is the Assistant Director of the Fenway Alliance, Taylor Mortell. Thank you very much for being with us, Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, talk about what's unique about the Fenway. I think there are lots of cities that have great, performance venues and institutions, but to have them so close together and with the emerald necklace, isn't this something unusual?
Yeah, it is pretty unique. The Fenway neighborhood in Boston has the highest concentration of arts, cultural, and academic institutions, I think, of almost anywhere outside of New York City. And the nice thing about Fenway is that most of them are walkable from each other. So in the same day, you could go see some shows at the Museum of Fine Arts and the Gardner Museum. You could hit the Boston Symphony Orchestra. You could stop at the Huntington Theater or the Maparium. There's just a lot to do.
Well, a lot of those organizations you just mentioned, they're world-class organizations. You'd think they're well-known. So what is it about this district that people don't know?
I think what people don't know is that all of these organizations and then several others belong to a nonprofit membership organization called the Fenway Alliance, which is where I work. And so these institutions such as the Museum of Fine Arts and the Mary Baker Eddy Library and the church and the BSO and the colleges in the area all collaborate together through the Fenway Alliance to plan events like opening our doors and Fenway Porch Fest. And I think that's really special because we can get world-class artists and activities from all of these different places together at one event.
And Taylor, tell me about how all this is going to be kicked off on Monday morning.
Well, on Monday morning at 10 a.m. at the Mary Baker Eddy Library, we have a big kickoff ceremony with a performance by Boston Children's Chorus, free cupcakes donated by Oakleaf Cakes, guest speakers from Fenway Alliance, and I think our state representative, Josh Latham, will be there as well.
What's also going on is that you have special events at some of these well-known institutions. At the Gardner Museum, for instance, there is a tribute to Freddie Gray, who was killed while in police custody in Baltimore. What's going to be going on with that?
The tribute to Freddie Gray will be with Steve Locke's art installation there that's on the outside of the museum. It's called 3 Deliberate Grays for Freddie. And performing alongside that installation is going to be the Hamilton Garrett Academy Choir. And they'll be, performing songs as a requiem to him twice, I think, at 12:30 and 1:30, and that'll be a really special thing.
Well, there are at least a couple of public art installations. One of them has to do, I think, with Mass Ave, something called Building the Avenue. What's that going to be like?
Mass Ave. That is very cool. That is planned in collaboration between the Mary Baker Eddy Library, which is where the activity will be, 210 Mass Ave, and the Boston Society of Architects. And what it is like a sculpture activity for children. So kids begin the activity by meeting with educators from the BSA who give them a plot, which is like a piece of cardboard, and walk them through a permitting process and explain to a child what it would be like to re-envision Mass Ave. And then they're guided through a sculpture activity where they create new buildings with recycled materials, and at the end all of the plots come together to a really cool little built vision.
Well, speaking of art, in a way, it's often said the Emerald Necklace is a work of art, or at least design, and the Emerald Necklace Conservancy is going to be involved in this free day too, right?
They are, yes. They have been wonderful partners in coming to our planning meetings for this event. Right now they have Fog Times Flow, which is an art installation by Fujiko Nakaya, who's from Japan originally, and it's 4 installations throughout the necklace that are sprinkler heads that produce designed fog clouds that are on timers. And so the Emerald Necklace Conservancy is generously giving 2 free tours of the fog installations that day, one on foot and one on bike. And the bike one will go to all 5 fog installations departing from their visitor center.
This is being the news, and we're talking with Taylor Mortell from the Fenway Alliance. Taylor, at the New England Conservatory, you've also got a special event, I guess a tribute to Leonard Bernstein, who went to high school in the Fenway and grew up in Roxbury.
Yeah, that's going to be really special. The exhibit for that is going to be at 255 St. Botolph Street and will be open from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. and then from 1 to 1:30, I believe, the opera department at NEC is going to do a special tribute performance also to Bernstein. And all these times can be double checked on our brochure, which is on the website.
I want to ask you about the Christian Science Church, because for people who drive by it, all they think is this church, I'm not interested. But if people walk inside, there are some things in there that are pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and the church has been undergoing some really interesting historic renovations this year. But inside the church is just some incredible architecture. The church have been wonderful partners on this event, and they have all kinds of free activities for kids, performances. They're hosting Build Mass Ave with the Mary Baker Eddy Library. There'll be face painting and snacks, and there's also the Maparium, which is really unique. It's a stained glass globe that you can walk inside, and I have never seen anything like it.
I've been to some of these free events over the years, and one thing I do remember from the Museum of Fine Arts, seeing all those parents with strollers, and I'm thinking maybe a lot of these parents, it never occurred to them before that you could take the kid in a stroller and still enjoy the paintings, right?
Yeah, and the MFA has a ton of wonderful family and children's programming. You can stop by the Scharf Visitor Center, which is in the middle of the museum, and there's staff there that can direct families to children's activities, but they'll have an art cart with kids stuff to do. They'll have a scavenger hunt. They really do take into account the whole family.
And you get some outdoor action too, dance, parade. Right.
Yeah, we will have dance performances, fitness classes, free art making activities at Evansway Park, directly across from the Gardner Museum all day. We'll have a really fun drumming and dance parade there from 11 to 12 p.m. with Grooversity, which is a local drumming group out of Berklee College of Music. And we will also have performances and art making activities all day inside the Christian Science Church and Mary Baker Eddy Library as well.
I guess the other thing that also occurs to me, when people go to these events, they get into the open house, they don't pay. But actually, if you look around the schedules, sometimes you will find there are plenty of free events year-round at some of these institutions in the Fenway too.
Yeah, opening our doors is definitely a really big day of free events, but all of these institutions are really wonderful in putting on community-oriented events throughout the year. And if you go to our website, which is fenwayculture.org, we have a directory of all the different member institutions' websites and a community events calendar that lists those too.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Taylor Mortell from the Fenway Alliance.